Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, dig into them, and pull out the knowledge you really need. Today we're tackling a topic that, well, maybe gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes. Philosophy majors. Now, I know there's this traditional view, maybe a bit old school, that philosophy degrees don't really lead anyway practical. You hear things like unemployment, low pay, no real skills for the modern world, especially with tech being so dominant. But what if that's just wrong?
Completely wrong, actually. The sources you've given us, the data in them, it paints a dramatically different picture. So our job today really is to dive into these sources and see what the actual truth is about philosophy majors. We're talking careers, academic performance, and, their actual value today in the 21st century.
Exactly. So if you've ever wondered about, say, the real-world power of thinking critically, or maybe how a supposedly useless degree could actually be a secret weapon, well, stay tuned. You might have a few surprises coming. Okay, so let's unpack that old narrative first. Our sources, they call it the inaccurate old school way of thinking. And it goes something like this. Philosophy majors, no marketable skills, unemployable, can't do anything but teach philosophy. Basically useless in a globalized techie autonomy, destined for low pay. It sounds pretty damning, doesn't it?
It really does. But what's so striking is how quickly the sources say, nope, that's false. Just flat out false. The reality is almost the complete opposite, which makes you wonder, right, why does this myth stick around so stubbornly? And what's the actual evidence telling us?
Great questions. It really sets things up, doesn't it? Challenges us to look deeper. So let's start there. Where do these graduates, the ones people assume are unemployable, where do they actually end up? Forget the stereotypes for a minute. What does the data say about their career prospects?
Well, the data is pretty clear. Philosophy majors are, in fact, highly employable. And they don't just get jobs, they thrive. And in a really wide range of fields. Get this. The unemployment rate for recent philosophy grads with a BA is just 4.3%.
Wow, 4.3%.
Yeah, and that's lower than the U.S. national average, but it's also lower than majors like biology, chemical engineering, graphic design, math, even economics.
That one number really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? It cuts right against the grain of that old story.
It absolutely does.
Okay, so that unemployment figure is genuinely surprising.
Yeah.
But the immediate question then becomes, employed doing what? Is it just, a few specific academic paths, or are they really finding jobs across the board?
They are genuinely everywhere. And that's, I think, part of the point, part of the advantage. Most don't go on to get PhDs in philosophy. Instead, you see them moving into all sorts of sectors. Business consulting, finance on Wall Street, leading innovation teams in Silicon Valley, humanitarian work, government jobs, politics, journalism. I mean, the list goes on. They're learning to code, they're writing, designing, publishing. And yes, many do go on to grad school, but often in things like medicine, law, education, business, computer science.
So incredibly versatile then.
It's hugely versatile. It shows an adaptability that's really valuable today.
And here's something really interesting for you listening. Our sources point out that a lot of successful companies, especially in tech, they don't see philosophy as impractical. Actually, it's the opposite. They actively look for people with those broader, big picture thinking skills. Not just the engineers, who can solve a specific technical problem, but people who can think around the problem, question the basic assumptions, articulate really complex stuff clearly.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it really suggests that those core philosophy skills, dissecting arguments, spotting flawed reasoning, critical thinking, solving ambiguous problems, pulling together diverse information, these aren't just nice-to-haves, they're becoming essential, especially in fast-moving industries like tech, where you constantly face new, undefined challenges.
So it's less about what specific tool you learned and more about how you approach problems in the first place.
Precisely, how you think.
Okay, so it's clear they're versatile, they're employed, but what about those really competitive fields? Law, medicine, places where sharp analytical skills are absolutely critical. Do philosophy majors have a real edge there?
Well, this leads to a really interesting point in the sources. What gives them that edge? It seems to come down, in large part, to how they perform on standardized entrance exams. The LSAT for law school, the MCAT for medical school. Philosophy majors consistently score higher on both of those than basically any other major.
Higher than all other majors.
Typically, yes. That's what the data tends to show, which suggests, a really high level of analytical and reasoning ability. It's not just about memorizing facts.
That is a massive advantage for anyone even thinking about those paths. It points to a different kind of intellectual training, maybe. And the sources have some great real-world examples, too, right? People who've used this training in leadership.
Oh, absolutely. Think about Sheila Bair. She chaired the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, from 2006 to 2011, right through the financial crisis, and she specifically credits her philosophy background for helping her navigate that incredibly complex financial regulation, making sense of the crisis. She wasn't just applying rules, she was thinking about principles, consequences.
Wow. Talk about a high-stakes environment.
Exactly. And then there's Stuart Butterfield, co-founder of Flickr and later Slack. Holds both a BA and an MA in philosophy. He talks about how philosophy teaches you, and this is his phrase, how to really think. Not just what to think, but how to understand context, how to apply knowledge differently. Whether you're starting a company or trying to understand, human behavior, it's about having that mental toolkit to tackle new, fuzzy problems by asking the right questions first.
It's really striking how they connect that philosophical training directly to dealing with real-world, complex, often unprecedented situations. It's like it gave them a foundational way to think, a sort of operating system for complexity.
That's a great way to put it. It's that training in taking arguments apart, seeing the assumptions underneath, exploring different viewpoints logically, skills that are just invaluable when the stakes are high and the path isn't clear.
Okay, so let's get into the hard numbers then. We've seen the test scores, the diverse jobs. What about academically overall and financially? Let's start with the GRE, the graduate record examinations. That's the test for lots of different graduate programs.
Right, and the pattern holds. Philosophy majors score significantly above average on the verbal reasoning and the analytic writing sections. We're talking an average of 160 on verbal versus about 150 overall average, and 4.4 on analytic writing versus about 3.9 average.
Big differences.
Yeah, their quantitative or math scores are pretty much right on the overall average, 152.4 versus 152.5. But that strength and verbal and analytical skills, that really shows broad intellectual horsepower applicable across tons of fields, not just humanities.
Okay, so clearly demonstrates strong academic ability, but the elephant in the room, for many people, salaries. Does this impractical major actually pay the bills, or are they just racking up high test goals and student debt? Let's talk money.
Right, the bottom line. And this is where the stereotype really falls apart.
Now, someone listening might push back a bit here. Are these high salaries because of the philosophy degree itself, or is it just that, smart, motivated people are drawn to philosophy and they'd succeed anyway?
That's a fair question, and the sources do touch on this. Of course, motivated people choose challenging fields. But the data strongly suggests it's the skills philosophy develops that really drive that long-term earning potential. Think about it. Adapting to new problems, analyzing complex, messy situations, arguing clearly, these become more valuable as you move up into leadership. Technical skill alone often isn't enough for strategic thinking, ethical decisions, navigating big market shifts. Philosophy grads are trained to think critically about novel issues, and that ability is highly compensated.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about the sustained value of those skills. So let's see the numbers.
Well, forget the ramen noodle myth.
Yeah.
Pay scale surveys, cited in the sources, show philosophy majors with a median starting salary around $44,800. Not bad, but the median mid-career salary is $85,100.
$85,000.
And here's the kicker. The mid-career salary is often higher than for graduates from many STEM fields.
Higher than STEM, like which ones?
Well, the source data compares it. That $85,100 for philosophy beats biotechnology at $58,500, civil engineering at $83,700, chemistry at $88,000, so slightly lower than chemistry but close, industrial technology at $65,500. It even edges out applied computer science in that data set at $88,800, so very close there too. But still, it completely upends that useless degree idea.
That really is a powerful counterpoint, especially the comparison with some engineering and tech fields. And the long-term picture is even better, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The median end-of-career salary, so looking at folks with 10 to 19 years experience, hits $92,665. And maybe even more telling, philosophy majors rank in the top 10% of all majors for salary growth over time. Their salary increase is pegged at about 101%.
Wow, double their starting point.
Right, it shows not just good earning potential out of the gate, but sustained career growth. Those foundational skills keep paying dividends. Some data also shows a median early pay, like 0 to 5 years experience, around $40,500, which again shows competitive starting points. The struggle myth just isn't true.
Okay, we've hit careers, tests, salaries. We've smashed some myths with data. But let's pull back for a second. Beyond the practical stuff, the money, the jobs, what's the deeper, maybe timeless value here? What is studying philosophy really for?
That's a fundamental question, isn't it? Is knowledge only valuable if it's, immediately practical in a job skill sort of way? The sources argue pretty strongly that while philosophy does have huge practical benefits, its deepest value isn't just about jobs or money. For what, 2,500 years, philosophy has stayed relevant because it helps us think about truth, understand value, make wiser choices. It gives us tools to understand ourselves, our world, and to grapple with the big global challenges we face. It's about learning how to live, essentially, with intellectual clarity.
So it's not just about earning a living, but about living a life with more meaning, more purpose, which feels incredibly relevant today. Can you give an example from the sources of how that philosophical thinking applies uniquely to a modern global issue, something beyond just tech or economics?
Sure. Take something like artificial intelligence ethics. It's a huge global issue right now. A purely technical view might focus on, can we build it? How efficient is it?
Yeah.
An economic view asks, will it make money? What's the market? Right. But someone trained in philosophy is asking different questions. They're asking, should we build this? What are the implications for justice, for human autonomy, for privacy, for bias?
Yeah.
They bring frameworks for ethical reasoning, thinking about concepts like responsibility, consciousness, fairness, that are crucial for developing AI responsibly. That perspective is often missing or underdeveloped in purely technical or business talks, and it's a direct application of philosophical skills to a massive 21st century challenge.
That's a fantastic example. What a journey we've taken then. From debunking the impractical myth to seeing philosophy grads in diverse, well-paid careers with top analytical skills and equipped with this framework for a meaningful life and tackling big issues. That old school thinking. The data just doesn't back it up at all.
Not at all. Our sources really hammer home that philosophy gives you this unique, valuable skill set that's actually becoming more essential in our complex world. That ability to think critically, to see different perspectives, connect ideas, argue logically. It's not just helpful, it's vital for navigating the world we live in now.
So here's a final thought, something provocative for you to chew on. In a world drowning in information, but maybe starving for wisdom, could embracing a philosophical mindset, maybe not a whole degree, but just cultivating that critical inquiry, that ethical reflection, could that be the ultimate shortcut, not just to being well-informed, but to being truly well-lived? What parts of that philosophical toolkit might you bring into your own life, your own work? Lots to think about there. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights.